this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this easy line bracelet. Now this is all crystal. I've used an opaque and I've used a translucent. You can use all translucent, you can use all opaque, it doesn't matter. But I just wanted a little depth to it, so I put a little bit of a darker bead underneath. This is what the back looks like. Let me show you. It's pretty also. This is the front. This is what it looks like from the side. It's really a very pretty bracelet and very easy to accomplish. It looks very intricate, but it's just a really simple process. And then I'm going to put it on so you can see what it looks like. And you know, just be really creative with your colors, and you can do this with several different kinds of beads, and we'll discuss that in the next section. But this is what this looks like on my wrist. This would be a very nice stackable bracelet too, and you can do it with different shapes of beads. Like I said, I'll discuss that. But you could have several of them on because they're nice and dainty, a nice splash of sparkle and color, and just looks really pretty. There's my clasping. Just a really, really pretty bracelet. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll look at the options for materials and then make the bracelet. Okay, for this project today, I am going to be using 4mm round beads. I have chosen 2 colors. You can do this all with 1 color. It does not have to be 2. You can do it all with translucents or all with opaques, but I am combining a opaque rainbow green and a translucent rainbow green iris together. And you can also use bicones, you can use cuboids, and you can use 4mm round fire polish beads for this particular design. All of them will work, and all of them will give you a little bit different look. So, but the pattern will work, and that way it makes it quite versatile. So I'm using 2 colors of 4mm rounds, and then I'm going to be using some Toho Seed beads, and I'm using an 8/0, an 11/0, and a 15/0 in antique bronze. I'm also using a toggle clasp, and this is a small toggle clasp, and it's antique bronze color. Then I'm going to use some Nanofil 10-pound. You can also use 8-pound Nanofil, or you can use 6-pound Fireline. I'm using a size 12 beading needle, and I have put onto my beading needle an arm's length of my thread, or not an arm's length, excuse me, a wingspan of my thread. That is when you the speech is going, oh no. That's when you spread your arms out to your side like they're wings, and you measure from the fingertips of your first arm, the length of that arm, across your chest, the length of your second arm, and to your fingertips on that arm. That is a wingspan. Go ahead and put that on your needle, and we will begin. Okay, so to begin, I am going to make the base of my entire bracelet with my opaque beads. This is the one I've chosen to be on the bottom layer of my bracelet, and then I will switch to my translucents. This is what it looks like if you do it all in 1 color, and this is all translucent. And it's really pretty. So you can do it all in 1 color, you can do it all in translucent, you can do it all in opaque. And I just wanted to let you see that's what it looks like if you do all 1 color. And now I am going to try it because I thought it would give it a little bit more depth if I had a little bit darker color on the bottom. And so I chose an opaque just to give it a little bit more depth. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by picking up onto my needle a 4mm round. My thread is arguing with me. A 4mm round, and then an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0. And then a 4mm round, and again an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0. This is a very, very simple unit we're going to make, and then we'll embellish it to make it look more complicated. But this is very simple. So this is what I have on my needle here, and I'm going to drag it down to the end of my thread. I don't have to leave a long tail, just enough to hold on to and to tie a knot with. Now I'm going to go through this first bead on the tail side. I'm going to grab the tail and hold on to that bead and pull my working thread until my beads all come together in a circle like this. And then I am going to sew through all these beads. So I'm coming out of the 4mm round. I'm going to go down into the 3 seed beads on the side, hold on to my beads in my tail, and pull it through. It's going to be loose right now, and that's okay. Just don't pull so tight that you pull your thread through at this point. Then I'm going to go through the 4mm round, and then I'm going to go through my seed beads on this side. And now that my working thread and my tail are right next to each other, I'm just going to take my working thread and tail, and I am going to put my working thread over the top of the tail, creating a loop, and then I'm going to put my tail through that loop twice, just tying a surgeon's knot, and then pull that down between the beads. So this is what you have, just like this. Now our thread is coming out, of course, where we tied our knot. So we want to get down to this bead so we can make our next unit. So we're just going to go through these 3 beads right here, just like this. Pull this down, and then we're going to come up through the 4mm round so that we can start our next unit. Now we're going to share this bead in our next unit, so we're going to pick up an 11-0, an 8-0, and an 11-0, and 1 4mm round this time, and then another 11-0, 8-0, 11-0 set. Just like this. Because we're sharing this bead, we only need 1 4mm round this time. Then we're going to come back through. So we're coming out. I accidentally went through that 11-0 on top, and you don't want to be through those 11-0s. You want to be coming out just the 4mm round. So when you come up through, just go through that 4mm round, pick up an 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, and your 4mm round. I apologize for that. 11-0, 8-0, and 11-0, like this. And now we're coming out of this side of the 4mm round. We're going to go into the opposite side of the 4mm round, and we're going to pull this new unit down, just like this. Now we're going to sew through this entire unit simply to make it secure and neat. So I'm coming out of the 4mm round I attached to. I'm then going to go into these 3 seed beads here. I'm going to pull my thread through, turn my unit, go through my 4mm round, and then I'm going to go through the 3 seed beads on this side, right here, and then through this 4mm round. And if your unit pulls apart like mine just did, don't worry. As you bring it through the bead, it will tighten back up. Now we need to move through these 3 seed beads and back into this 4mm round so we can make another unit. So we're going to go through these 3 here and into the 4mm round. And again, we'll pick up an 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, 4mm round, and then an 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, and go back through the opposite side of the 4mm round and pull. Now we're going to sew back this around this entire unit. So I'm coming out of the 4mm round. I'm going to go up into the 3 11-0s, or excuse me, the 3 seed beads on this side. Hold on to my unit as I do that with my thumb and my finger. give a little tug to tighten everything up, go through the 4mm round, and then back through the 3 seed beads on this side. I'm just going to hold on to my unit, pull my thread through, and then go through this 4mm round here. Then we're going to have to work back up to this bead here. So we'll go up through these 3 on this side. So you're just sewing around until you get back to the 4mm round so you can attach your next unit. And we'll do one more, and then we'll go to length with this, and we will discuss length in detail when I finish my length. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, an 11/0, and 1 4mm round, an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0, and go back through the opposite side of the 4mm round I am attaching to. And pull this through. And again, I'm coming out of this 4mm round. I'm going to go through these 3 seed beads on this side, pull it through, give a little tug, go through the 4mm round, and go through these 3 seed beads on this side, and then through the 4mm round, and then back through the seed beads on this side, working my way into my 4mm round so I can make my next unit, just like that. And we're just going to continue making these units until we have 31 center 4mm rounds. So I'm just counting the 4mm rounds, and I've ended on a 4mm round on each side, of course. When you finish your last units, this is what it should look like. Now we're going to talk length, because this at this point is measuring right at 7.5 inches. Now, I want my bracelet to be around 7.5 inches. The reason I have made it that length already is because when I do my embellishments and then the step afterwards, I am going to draw these units together and I'm going to lose some length. So by the time I put my clasping on, I'll regain some of that length. And I'm estimating that it'll probably be around 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more. But that will keep me in the region or the length that I want to be in after I put my clasping on. So if you want to have a 6.5 inch bracelet, then you're going to make your base units to 6.5 inches. If you want to have a larger bracelet, then you're going to make a few more units. So you want to go to the length that you want your finished bracelet to be. And that's however many units it takes to achieve that length. That's what you're going to do on your base units. And then we're coming out of the end here. And I wanted to say too that I did have to extend my thread during this process. So you may have to extend your thread you will have to extend your thread during this process. And if you do not know how, I will post a link in the description box beneath the video player that will show you how. So now I have reserved quite a bit of length because I'm going to put on my clasping on one end and then I'm going to do all of my embellishments. So here I am going to begin by picking up, I'm coming out of my embellishment on the side here, so I have to, after finishing my unit, I have to go into the 4mm round here. So just make sure you're coming out of the 4mm round and then pick up 2 11/0 seed beads and then pick up an 8/0 seed bead and drop them down to your piece. And then pick up your clasp and go through the loop on your clasp. Now, it depends on what side you want your clasping on. You could do this one if you'd like first too, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. And then I'm going to go through my 8 15O seed bead. So I've gone through my clasp. I am now going through my 8O. I'm going to hold on to that 8O and I'm going to pull my thread through until I draw the clasp and the 8O down to the 11Os, like this. And then I'm going to pick up two 11Os and I'm going to go through the opposite side of the 4mm round bead that we're attaching to. When you draw it together, you get something that looks like this. Now, we need to sew through this a couple of times to secure it and to make it nice and neat and tight. So I'm coming out of the 4mm round, I go up through the two 11Os, up through the 8O, and then through my clasp, like this. And then I will hold on to all that and pull the thread through. And then I'll go back down into the 8O and then into the two 11Os on this side. Pull this down, and then I will go into the 4mm round again. Do that one or two more times, going through the clasping so that you secure that nicely, and we'll be back. Okay, so now I have secured it twice. I went through twice just to make sure that I had a very nice secure ending here. Now I'm coming out of the 4mm bead that connected the clasping to the bracelet, and I am just going to go into the 11O and the 8O between the beads here, and I'm going to exit the 8O seed bead. Maybe. There we go. So just go through the 11O and the 8O, exit the 8O. And then we are going to put an embellishment on top of this little unit in between the two 4mm rounds. I'm going to now open up my strand of my translucent beads and push my opaque beads aside, and I'm going to start doing my embellishment with my second color. So you'll pick up a 15O seed bead, and then you'll pick up one of your 4mm rounds of your second color, and then a 15O seed bead. Now I'm going to get you in close so you can see. Let me rearrange a little bit here and draw you in. And we're coming out of this 8O seed bead. I have 15O 4mm round, 15O on my needle or on my thread, and then I'm going to go into the 8O seed bead across from the one I'm coming out of, so directly across on the same side that I'm coming out of this bead. So just like this. And then I'm going to pull this through and bring that down between my original two beads. And then I'm going to pick up a 15O seed bead, and then I'm going to go into the bead I just added on the top here, just like this. I'm going to put my thumb over it just to hold it, and then I'm going to draw that 15O down to the new bead I just put on. Now I'm going to pick up another 15O seed bead, and I'm going to connect the other side where I have not connected yet. So I started on this side of the 8O. I'm going to go into the opposite side that I started on, and I'm going to go into the 11O next to it. And I'm just going to pull this together and arrange it. I'm going to tug, make sure it's nice and tight, and it sets really pretty on top of those 4mm rounds, making sure you don't see a lot of thread by arranging your beads and making your thread tight. And then now we're coming out of this 11O seed bead right here. We're going to go into the 4mm on the next unit here. Tug to make sure that you tighten your previous unit, your embellishment, and then we're going to go into the 11O and 8O in the next unit and exit the 8O. Sometimes this angle is a little funny, so just kind of move your needle around till you can get through that 8O, exit the 8O, Make sure there's nice tension on your thread. Nothing got loose when you did that. And then pick up a 15-0, a 4mm round, and a 15-0, just like this. And then you're going to find the opposite 8-0, and in the same side that you're exiting the 8-0 here, you're going to go in on the opposite 8-0. So go into the 8-0. You'll have to go at an angle so you can get past those 11-0s on either side, and then draw your 15-0 4mm round, 15-0 down on top of those 8-0s that you are attaching to, just like this. And then pick up a 15-0 and go back into the 4mm round, hold on to that 4mm round, and pull your needle through, just like that. Then pick up another 15-0 and go into the opposite side from which you started on this 8-0. So you're attached on this side. We'll now go into this side, and we'll go into the 8-0, and the 11-0 behind it, just like this. And pull your thread through and pull that bead down on top, just like this. Now you're going to go down into the 4mm round, and let's back off just a tiny bit, and let's go into the 11-0 and next 8-0 at an angle, pull your needle through, pick up a 15-0, and this is just repetitive now. We're just going to continue doing the same embellishment the entire length of the bracelet. So pick up your 4mm round and then pick up another 15-0. Go into the opposite 8-0 on the same side that you're exiting the 8-0 you are in, and then go at an angle through that 8-0, pull your embellishment down, pick up a 15-0, go back into your new bead, holding on to it, pull that thread through nice, get some nice tension on it, and then pick up a 15-0 and go into the opposite side of the 8-0 you started in and through the 11-0 behind it, just like this. And then pull your thread through. Go through the next 4mm round, up through the 11-0 and 8-0 at an angle, and exit the 8-0. And just continue putting the same embellishment all the way to the end. Let me get you close so you can see what this looks like. The bead just lays really nicely between the original beads that you put on your base. Continue doing that embellishment till you get to the end, and we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, now I have done my complete embellishment. I'll get you close so you can see what it looks like. It's really pretty. And now I am coming out of this 4mm round bead at the very end of my bracelet now, after doing my last unit and then sewing into the 4mm round. Now I have this little tail here, and from when I started the bracelet, so I'm just going to get rid of that, and then I'm just going to burn it down without blocking my beads here. I'm just going to gently roll it down like this, and then I'm going to put my clasping on this side. Now at this point you want to make sure you have quite a bit of thread, because we're going to do a securing run of thread through the entire bracelet, which will draw the units together and make them tighter so that they look like they're one continuous piece here. So you want to make sure at this point you have a long piece of thread. If you do not, you need to extend. And again, like I said, I will post a video for that in the description box beneath the video player if you do not know how. Now, I'm coming out of this 4mm round. I'm going to pick up two 11-0s, and then I'm going to pick up an 8-0. I'm going to drop it down, and then I am going to go through my clasp loop. Normally, I like to have, on this side of my bracelet, I like to have the other end, but I didn't do that. So you can change that. It's just that if you have this end on first, then you can measure and see how long your bracelet's going to be. So anyway, let's go ahead and go through the 8-0. So we've gone through the loop of the clasp. We go through the 8-0. Pull this down. And make sure that your thread doesn't get all tangled up in it. And now I'm going through the 8-0. Now I need to connect to this side of the bead. So I have to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and go through the other side from which I started with the 2 11-0s and pull this down. And this is what I have. Now, sew through this again twice or 3 times is even better, and we'll be back. Okay, so now I have secured my clasping just like I did on the other side by sewing through it 3 times all together. And now I am going to draw all these units together by sewing through all the 11-0 and 8-0 seed beads that are on the sides of the units. So we're coming out of the 4mm round. We're going to turn the bracelet to the side, ignore those 15 O's that we put on for the embellishment, and just begin to sew through these. Let's get really, really close so you can see. Whoops, maybe not quite that close. There we go. Now I've gone through these 3. I'm just going to slide my needle through the next 3. And then I'll just pull my thread through. This is going to draw all this together as we get to the end and then pass through the 4mm round. We can draw the side together. It's going to cinch this side of the bracelet kind of into a curve until we do the other side. So just keep sewing through all the 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, 8-0, and then once you get a couple sets, just pull it together. It's going to stretch back out. That's okay. Just continue to go through all the beads on the side of the bracelet. So you can see what I'm doing, ignoring those 15 O's. And once I get through one set of 3, I go through another set of 3, exit, and pull my thread. And I'm going to do that the entire length of the bracelet. And you can see it's starting to cinch those beads together and kind of curve my bracelet. And like I said, that's going to be okay. We'll take care of that and straighten it back out when we do the other side. So continue until you get to the last unit and we'll be back. Okay, so I have traveled all the way through and you can see I've pulled my thread tight and it's drawing my bracelet into kind of a curve. We're going to correct that as we now, coming out of the last 3 beads here on the side, we sew into this 4mm round. Pull the thread tight, and then kind of straighten out your bracelet, giving it just the right amount of slack here. It's not going to straighten completely, but you don't want it so tight that it's just all crumpled up. You want it to be cinched together nicely, but not to the point to where it looks bad. So now I've got just the right amount of tension on that side. I'm going to start traveling down this side. So I'm going to go through from this 4mm round into the next set of 3 seed beads and then into the set after that if I can get it. If not, you can just go one set at a time. Sometimes they're laying at angles, kind of funny, and you can't get through all 3 of them. But I was able to do that. So now I'm through the 2 sets here. I'm going to pull this. And as I start to do this, my bracelet will straighten out more. And I can make sure my tension is nice and tight as I go down, so that this side cinches as tightly as that side is. So I'm just going to continue sewing all the way down every set of 3 seed beads until I get to the end again, and we'll come back and tie it off. Okay, I just wanted to show you as I'm working through, I'm just adjusting the tension on my thread, which because it's just slid through this bead, it also adjusts the other side. So I just make sure that I have everything nice and tight together. You can see how my beads look, and here's the back of it. You can see how they're coming together really nicely, and how this is still kind of jumbled up. But as I sew through, I'm just making sure to straighten, tighten, adjust tension until it looks really pretty like this. And it draws the units together to where it just looks like a continuous up and down of crystal instead of separate units of crystal. So that's what I'm doing, and I just wanted to make sure you knew so that you could adjust your bracelet the same way. I'm going to continue until I'm to the end now. Okay, so now I have gone all the way to the end, and I'm just going to adjust the way that everything looks so that while adjusting it, pulling on it, playing with it a little bit, pulling on the thread if you need to, make it nice and straight and even. This adjusts the tension inside the beads and will make your bracelet, the bracelet form, nice and neat. So let me get you close so you can see what it looks like. So I've got them all drawn together. There is no thread showing. The units are drawn tight together. However, they are not bunched. They're not funny looking. The bracelet is not curved. Everything is nice. The beads on top can kind of be a little off a little bit here and there. That's okay. That's just kind of the nature of what happens when you put faceted crystal on top of faceted crystal. But for the most part, they're pretty nice and neat. And then I'm at the end here of my bracelet. So the main thing I want to tell you is make sure you do not skip any of these beads on the side. If you skip one, you're going to have to pull out all of your thread through and go back to the place where you missed and then start again. Because if you miss one, it's going to mess up the entire layout of the bracelet. So now I am coming out of my very last bead here. After doing all the 11 O's and 8 O's, I'm coming out of the last 11 O here. I'm going to go up into this 4mm round crystal here. Now, again, make sure everything's adjusted perfectly. Your tension is exactly how you want it in your bracelet. And then you can see right here by the clasping, there's a little thread bridge right here. We're going to go underneath it and form a loop and tie a knot. Then we're just going to go up through the clasping again. So I'm going to go up through these two 11 O's and the 8 O, like this. Go through my clasp, and then down through the 8 O again. Which I sew very tightly, so my beads are very tight, but I can still get through, just like this. And then I'm going to go through this 4mm round again here. I'm going to go through the first set of 11 O, 8 O, 11 O on the side here, through this crystal here, right here, and find myself a little thread bridge underneath these beads right here. I'm going to put my needle under there. I keep losing my thread today. So let me rethread this. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm coming out of that 4mm round, and I'm just going to go underneath the thread bridge that's between the 4mm round and the seed beads from my original stitch here, my base stitch, and I'm just going to tie a knot around that thread bridge. And then I'm going to go into the next set of beads, maybe a couple sets here. Let's go down the side, as many beads as you want. Pull that thread through. Adjust everything again, make sure it looks good. And then let's just cut this off, leaving a little bit of extra thread. And I'll just melt that down into the beads. When you do this, you just get the flame close and let the heat just roll that thread in. Don't light it on fire, just let the heat roll it in. And then we're going to see how much this shrunk down, because I was making estimates, but you can see I have a 7.5-inch bracelet. So that was perfect the way that I measured it before. Go ahead and go completely to your length. Now, the size of your clasp is going to make a difference too, of course. So if you have a great big clasp, then you're probably, and you want to make a 7.5-inch bracelet, maybe you just go to 7 inches. But your shrinkage is going to be at least 1/2 inch of shrinkage. So, that's what you'll keep in mind for your length. Now, let me see if I can put this on my little wrist here and show you what it looks like. It's really, really pretty in person. I don't know how well it translates on the video, but it is just really pretty because it looks like a continuous row of crystal, some high, some low, and it turns out just gorgeous. And you know, your color scheming is going to make a difference too. I used a deep green and a light green, so it just kind of all blends. Now, let's say you used a dark red and a pink, a light pink, or you used black and silver, or you used, I have a pink mix like this, of 4mm rounds. There's all different colors, but you could make every single unit a little bit different color. And there's so many ways you can do this. You can do it all in opaques, you can do it all in translucents, you can mix, you can do two completely different colors. You could do a purple and a blue, or maybe not purple and blue, maybe, let's see, purple and yellow or something like that. It would be really pretty. So this is what this looks like, and it is just, it's substantial, it feels good, it's really pretty on the back too. That's what the back looks like. And it just looks like a really nice piece of jewelry. Feels like a really nice piece of jewelry. And I think you'll like it if you try one. So let me move this and put it on the blue one so you can see maybe a little bit better what it looks like. Since my mat was green also, fingernails green, everything's a green. There we go. Which is odd because I'm not a huge fan of green, but I'm green today. So there we go. I think it's really, really, really pretty. Anyway, see you in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.